I can't believe the nucleus of hope begins inside a tiny
Evelyn Cooper.
seed.
Well, thank you, Caroline, for that wonderful introduction. Being on the committee has truly been a joy. But this panel and what we're going to talk about today is not about me. We've spent the morning talking about environmental challenges, grand challenges that we have, and how we're trying to overcome those challenges. But this panel is about the joys of the great outdoors and the joys of the environment. So we're going to hear from our panelists here who are leaders, who are very passionate and enthusiastic about the work that they do, ranging from gardening to urban agriculture to triathloning and cycling, and share with you their passion for what they do. So we're just going to get right into it, and I'm going to allow the panelists, in the interest of time, to introduce themselves and to talk about their organization. And I think I would like to start with David Girton of LiveNow Fitness, because he's going to kind of, I think, get us up out of our seats a little bit.
Absolutely.
So take it away.
Good morning, everybody. I'm David Girton, LiveNow Fitness. We're in Howard County. I want to get everybody to stand up. Everybody stand up. And if you feel like it, take off your foot caution. Remember, when we keep our feet in the shoes, they're like this all the time. So your feet lose their connection with the earth, right? It's all about the environment. So if you would, go ahead and take off your shoes, get comfortable. Next thing is about energy. Our fitness company is all about energy, environment again. So I need you to turn to the people next to you, give them a high five, give them a hug, give them a fist bump, introduce yourself. So, everybody see what just happened? See that exchange of energy? Look around the room. Look at the smiles. That's what protecting the environment is about as well, right? Is the energy that we give to one another. All right, so we're gonna do a little partner stuff. All right, little partner, don't worry, you're not gonna sweat or anything like that, all right? So, identify your partner right now. Identify a partner. Identify a partner. One person, hey, one person. Thank you. One. Can you hear me? Is the mic on?
I'm glad you took your shoes off.
It's on. Is it on?
Yes.
Am I on? Okay, cool. All right, so one person is going to put their arms out just like this. Just like this. Step your feet apart. Oh, but face me. Face me. Face front. Face front. Other partner, what you're going to do is you're just going to come right here, and you're going to give them a little push. All right? You're going to resist the push. Belly tight. Resist the push. Give them a little push. Ready. And go. Give them a little push. Give them a little push. Everybody feel that? Look at all the smiles around here. Look, we're exercising right now. That's what we're doing. All right, 3, 2, 1, switch. Other partner, arms straight out. Give them a little push. There we go, just like that. Absolutely. Yes. 3, 2, 1. Now, here we go. Everybody. Remember, I talked about the exchange of energy. So in my facility, we hug, we high five, we exchange that energy all the time because it's super important because we stay connected to our phones, to our computers, but it's disconnecting us from one another, from nature, from the environment. All right? So I need everybody to hold hands. Everybody hold hands. We're gonna do 3 squats. 3 squats. That's it, and then I'm out of here, okay? 3 squats and I'm out of here, all right? So here we go. Everybody stays with me, though, okay? Here we go, ready? And down, and up. Your count. How many is that? 1, yes, all right, here we go. Down, and up. Yes, here we go. Here's number 3, ready and down. Now say hi to your neighbor. I didn't come up yet. Say hi to your neighbor, yes. And up, 3. All right, thank you.
All right. All right, well, I hope you all enjoyed that mini workout from LiveNow Fitness. And next, we're going to go to Esther Mitchell. So you can take it away, Master Gardener, and tell us about your organization.
Good afternoon. Before I start talking about my organization, let me tell you how I got involved in gardening and how I got involved with the Master Gardeners. I bought a house. And although I have always been interested in gardening, I never really did it. So until I bought a house. And I had this humongous hill in the back of my property, right in my backyard, really. And someone asked me, what are you going to do with that hill? You can't mow it. And all of a sudden I said, I see a garden here. And so I went about putting stuff in, planting seeds and stuff over a mountain of mulch, thinking stuff would grow. And it didn't. So I said, I need to take some classes so I know what I'm doing. So I went and took some classes at the graduate school. And the class was Perennials for Spring. So I took that class. And I went back and planted all these spring plants. Summer came along. Those plants weren't there. So then I had to go back and take a class, Perennials for Summer. And I planted all these plants, and fall came. You know the plants weren't there after a while. So then I went back and took woodies for fall and winter, and then woodies for spring and woodies and so on and so forth. And then I took soils and all, wow, until I ended up getting a certificate in horticulture. Well, by the time I did that, I joined the Master Gardener program as a volunteer. And in 2008, I became a employee of the Department of the Environment as a planner master gardener. So my job is to answer questions, no matter how crazy they may seem, from residents. And really, I tell residents, no question is crazy unless it's not asked. So we have this. So this is our mission, is to support the University of Maryland Extension for residents about safe, effective, and sustainable horticultural practices. Because we have short time, Baywise is our main environmental program. And this program certifies, it educates residents and certify their property as being Baywise. And there is a form that you fill out before it gets to me. And if you get 36 inches, which equals a yard, then you can have your property certified as Baywise. And so a lot of education happens with the resident to get them to be Baywise. And so that's one of the things. Another, and this is the plaque that they get to put in their front yard, bragging rights, in other words. And this is some of the people who have gotten their yards certified. And you can see that. Okay. The next environmental thing I want to talk about is Grow It, Eat It. This is where we wanted to get 1 million residents involved in planting something to understand where your food really comes from. Not the grocery store, but from the soil. And a point that really brought it home was when one of the adults who was, we were harvesting vegetables said, well, I don't want to eat this because it has dirt on it. And I said, everything, all the plants have dirt on it. It's just that the ones in the store have been washed off. So with that, I wanted to let you know that being a master gardener, you are trained by the University of Maryland and the University of Maryland Extension. And it doesn't mean you know everything that the word master may imply. It just means you know more than most residents so that you can go out and train them on what they can do to be successful at gardening and keeping the environment intact. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and next we will hear from Mandela Jones.
So good morning. Good morning. Good morning. All right, I just wanted to make sure the energy was still there a little bit. So my name is Mandela Jones. I'm here on behalf of myself and my co-founder, Cedric Norfolk, who couldn't be here. But together, we at the University of Maryland found an organization called Roots Africa. And the idea behind it for me came about 5 years ago. I took a course in developed nations, and it really was about development and in communities in general. And we talked about how the management of natural resources and land are basically the basis for any community being able to rise to any occasion, to any situation, to any challenge. And something about that course really hit home for me. My parents and grandparents are from Southern Virginia, and so I grew up around a garden my entire life. Didn't really like the squash that was grown from it, you know, didn't really like anything but like cherries and apples. But at some point, you know, all of that kind of culminated in, for me, I left school at that point and decided to learn on a farm and actually learn, like, you know, how things grew, like Esther was saying, from the dirt all the way up. And that really kind of changed my perspective. It made me think about, you know, what other resources were available for people that like growing, whether you're, you know, a property owner or whether you're a small-time farmer or a gardener. And, you know, I started to do a little bit more research about what that looks like across the U.S. and interactions to other nations. And when I met Cedric a year later, he had that same idea from his visits with other farms and learning about, you know, other other, you know, machinery, other methods that he missed out in being delivered to his community. He's from Cameroon. So we came together and thought that it would be a great idea to bring more students from the University of Maryland and from other schools together to connect them with youth here in the U.S. and in farming communities in Africa. So right now, what we are doing is connecting the University of Maryland, the University of Arkansas, and other schools in the U.S. to farming communities in Liberia and farming communities in Uganda. And the idea is basically working towards raising agricultural change makers everywhere to really, you know, be able to advocate, like Jerome mentioned a while ago, to really advocate the environmental change that is needed for us as youth, you know, for people that we care about and for our communities. So I guess we'll talk about a little bit more, like, you know, the activities that we do, but we do encourage any student, you know, from any discipline to really get their hands dirty and understand where, you know, their food comes from in order to really provide, you know, a change in the future. So it's Roots Africa.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Violet King, and I'm a farmer, herbalist, and educator in Washington, D.C. And I currently serve as the farm director at the farm at Kelly Miller. And Kelly Miller Farm is a 2-acre production farm. We grow fruits, vegetables, culinary herbs, perennial herbs. We have extensive pollinator gardens, a youth garden, and a compost operation. So today I'll just talk to you a little bit about the work that we do to engage our community in nature. And as I said, I work for Dreaming Out Loud, and our mission at Dreaming Out Loud is to create economic opportunities for the DC metro region's marginalized community members through building a healthy and equitable food system. And part of creating a healthy and equitable food system is working to heal the relationship between African Americans and the land and nature. As we know, our ancestors had a deep connection to the land and a rich agricultural legacy that has been broken through the system of slavery and the systematic destruction of Black farms during the past century. And so I hope to help facilitate the process of healing our relationship to Mother Earth by providing opportunities for our community to experience and engage in nature in a variety of ways. And this includes exposing people to hands-on gardening and farming experiences through our volunteer opportunities. But it also looks like hosting our annual fall festival, where people can get a chance to try new things like horseback riding. And it gives parents and children who may have never gotten to ride a horse the opportunity to do so together and to feel the joy of that moment as the crowd cheers them on as they walk around the farm. It's also introducing 6th graders at Kelly Miller Middle School to chickens, and having a student come up to you at the end to tell you that they've never seen a real chicken in person. They've only seen one on Roblox. And the chickens on Roblox go buck, 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 but these chickens say so much more. It's getting students to taste freshly picked mustard greens for the first time, as you can see. Or mint, hot peppers, chives, and basil, and then they come back again and again and do hot pepper contests. And it's hosting herbalism workshops where we teach about the healing traditions of the African diaspora and allow folks to re-engage with our ancestral plants and medicine. It's giving people the opportunity to engage with nature in a safe space right within their own community. It's empowering people and letting them know it's okay to stick our hands in the dirt, plant seeds, and watch them grow. So cultivating joy for Black people in nature for me goes beyond the work that I've done here at Kelly Miller. As a mother, I've tried to also cultivate a love of nature within my own children. My youngest daughter, who you can see on the screen, got the opportunity to spend a lot of time with me on the farm last year. And I can really see the impact that it has on her. She loves nature. She tries to eat these wood chips all the time. She's happier outdoors. Anyone who babysits her says, we take her outside and she's much better. And one of her first words was chicken. For my 2 oldest children, they feel free in nature. They love to go mulberry picking in the spring. They insist that fresh strawberries should only come from the garden. And they can spend hours running outside, hiking along trails, and exploring the great outdoors. So for me, growing up in New England, I was able to cultivate a relationship with nature at a young age. Trips to Walden Pond, Cape Cod, New Hampshire, and abroad deeply impacted me as a child and allowed me to feel comfortable and joyful in nature. And it led me to where I am now, and for that I am truly grateful. And as an adult, I have experienced profound healing through my work with land and plants. And so I hope to always work to provide some of those opportunities to my family and my community through the work that I do as a farmer, an herbalist, and an educator, and a lover of the great outdoors. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Felicia Stuckey, and I am one of the founding members of Velo City Riders. And we are a cycling club. We ride all over the state of Maryland. Sometimes if you see large groups of cyclists riding too fast down near BWI Airport, that's usually our club. I can honestly say I identify with Violet growing up as a child in North Carolina, spending time in the garden with my grandmother, helping her to plant herbs and not wanting to be out there because there were bugs out there. But I have always been an outdoor person, and I've always had my own garden that I figured out how to grow. Lots of vegetables every year from the help of my grandmother when I was young. So, growing up, running track in high school, being very active, always liking being outside and not being cooped up in the house playing video games like my godchildren do now, and I'm trying to get them out of the house. I've always been an outdoor person, and I used to run marathons. I've done triathlons, and I actually saw that my knees and my ankles were going out on me. So I started to look for something that would allow me to still stay fit, that would take me through, forever, that I could continue doing, and I started riding a bike. And I threatened my friends many times that I was going to buy a bike, and they had to ride with me. And I wasn't successful in getting them to help me. So my friends know that when they can't find me on a Saturday, that's where I am. So myself and 4 other people, we decided to start a club because we were a group of folks that would get together on the weekends and ride rogue all over town. And if someone got hurt, we'd just keep going. But we decided that we needed to make it official. So we started a club, Velo City Riders, in 2017, and our premise was we wanted to be inclusive of everyone. So in 3 years, we have grown a club from 5 members to about 200 members. We have all ranges of speed. We teach people how to ride their bike. We don't spend a lot of time on the trails because that's where the children are. So we teach our riders how to ride on the street and to be safe doing it. We have people who race. I actually race as well. I don't necessarily recommend that for everyone. However, when we get our groups together, we have folks that like to ride a little faster. We like folks that just like to come out and enjoy the sun. So we make sure we have something for everyone. I think that's what I wanted to cover. Yes. And we'll talk more about what we do later in the program. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank the panelists for sharing about the organizations and for getting the energy flowing. I certainly feel more joyful after hearing about all of the endeavors, and I have to say that I have a personal connection, I think, with just about everyone here on the panel, whether it's a work connection or participating in the LiveNow fitness boot camp over the years, riding bikes or doing triathlons, or working with students, or going to gardens and encouraging students to get involved. I think these things bring more joy and fulfillment. So I would like to have time for us to ask questions. So now it's time for the audience participation part of the program. And we're going to have those boxes. So are there any questions or comments about environmental joy? Okay, I see a question there and in the back. You raise your hand, they'll bring the box to you.
Nurse, my name is Joyce Woodson. I'm with the Nature Conservancy, and one of the things that I wanted to ask about is like really not having land, so to speak. Like you don't have a backyard, but you like to do container gardening. Do you help people to choose what's best to work with and how to do that?
Yes, we do instruct people on how to have a container garden, when to plant vegetables, and how to plant them from seed as well as transplant. What you may not know is that almost any object can be a container for gardening. And I have shown examples where we have gardened in rubber boots, shoes, as well as tin cans. So you can start seeds in the shallow ones and transplant them later. So almost anything can be a container, and you can grow almost anything.
That is so true.
Thank you. Question over here.
Yes, good Thursday. I'm with, I founded United Parents Against Lead, and I just wanted to know from any of the panelists, what do you recommend for making sure, oh, it's in here, for making sure that our soil is not lead contaminated?
I would recommend the soils test. Wouldn't the rest of you agree? I would recommend that you get a soil test. You can check out the University of Maryland Extension, and they can give you examples of things. In fact, you can go online, and they can give you, and I have cards if you want them later, and I can give them to you, on how you can do a soils test. There are various labs that provide that for you, and some will specifically state for lead, and that's the ones you want. For most students, though, I recommend raised beds. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Question in the back.
Yeah, so is a guy by Sebi. This is a question for LiveNow Fitness. And in and out. Is hear me? Okay.
Kind of going in and out.
Breaking up.
There was a person by the name believe that should door therapy, and that actually that is electric or the beneficial. So I was the question was, what is your opinion on? Is there a certain diet we should be eating? Person.
Well, I'm not a nutrition expert, but I will say that we should eat things that we recognize. So if it's man-made, it's probably not good for us. As far as going as deep and as hard as Dr. Sebi goes, like, I think that's something that everybody has to find out for themselves. You know, I started with eat right for your blood type, and then I moved on. You know what I mean? So I really think it's a personal thing that we have to do, although I think there are some ethnic things like dairy and wheat, especially the way that it's been messed up by man, that we should stay away from, especially being African Americans.
Thank you. There's a question down front.
Okay, hello? This is awesome.
We hear you.
I'm doing my next show like that. Question for Violet, since I haven't seen you in 10 years. For anybody, how do you guys see the whole economic empowerment? You mentioned something about economic empowerment for the community with the garden. So how does that translate from just being in the dirt to people in the community actually benefiting economically?
So I think one of the main ways that we're able to do that is through employing people through our organization. Every year we have seasonal positions, both like entry level and more experienced positions, and it's really our mission to try and recruit from the community that we live in, so that we're making sure that we're providing jobs for folks in the community, and then also training them for green job skills so that they can go on and get employment in the future. We also have a food hub, and so we aggregate produce from different farmers in the region, and so that's another way that we try to work to stimulate economic justice for farmers. I think a lot of times farmers are overlooked. But you know, a lot of times they may be growing vegetables but can't eat them because they have to sell them. And so another part of our work is making sure that our farmers are having access to markets, and that we can be the ones that kind of broker those relationships so that they can focus their time on growing the food, and then knowing that they'll get a return from that investment.
Thank you. There's a question in the back.
Hi, I had a question about Roots Africa and what the exchange of knowledge is for the students here versus the students, I guess, or practitioners in Africa. Like, what are the parties getting from each other exactly?
Sure. So the way our student club program works is first, allowing both sides, both groups of students to really have an understanding of where they are in terms of their community, and there's an exchange in between sharing experiences and sharing knowledge of where they are and where they're from, so that there's an intercultural exchange, but it's also kind of a historical and geographical understanding prior to, basically collaborating towards agricultural projects. So one is understanding in terms of location and where they are. And then I would say the next is kind of just building empathy across places that, you may not have been yet or you want to be. So I would say that in between those two, those are kind of the main takeaways that students get. And then in the end, we also, try to facilitate travel in between. So at some point they're, working face to face and actually, learning how to work together across different cultures as well.
Thank you. Question in the back?
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Justin Randolph. I'm with the Montgomery County Conservation Corps. And I had a question for you, Violet, or anybody else who can answer. But my question is, how do you, dealing with youth who might come from adverse backgrounds or what have you, how do you pull them in and draw the connection between and emphasize the importance of environmental stewardship? How do you actually do that effectively and pull them in to show them that this is a career, this is important, this could be an opportunity for you, even if you're not interested in pursuing a career, this is important for your livelihood. How do you draw that connection and make that point of emphasis?
I think that oftentimes we think that kids may not be interested in being outdoors. As I mentioned, I have 3 kids, and it's a part of kind of the punishment of many schools to take away being outside from youth if they're misbehaving. And I think that is where we're really getting things wrong. I find when kids come to the farm for a field trip, if they may be a little bit standoffish at first, but once they start to walk around, they feel comfortable. Once you start giving them things to eat, that gets them really excited. And at least with the middle school students that we work with, it took a while, I think, to get them to see that it was a space that was open and welcome to them. But once they realized that they could be there, that they could kind of play in a way that they can't in school, it really kind of made them want to continue to come back. And so I think that the basic thing is letting kids know that those opportunities are there and bringing them to those spaces. And then once they're there, kids are very, very smart, and they're, I think, naturally, connected to nature. And so it just kind of sparks that thing within them. And then hopefully that can lead them on a direction, if they're interested in the longer term.
Thank you. Question? Where's the next question? Oh, question there.
Okay. Oh, that is working. Okay. Thank you. My name is Richard Allen. I'm with the Maryland Department of Natural Resources, and we have a program at Maryland DNR basically saying no child should be left inside. So please, stay in touch with our environmental educators at Chesapeake and Coastal and our other personnel. My question basically is, what can or should we be doing to get public school systems and private school systems getting the children outside on a more regular basis? And does anybody have any information on the correlation between children not going outside and perhaps different types of reactions in school, during class, or possible disability conditions?
So I guess I have an 8-year-old son, and so I know firsthand when I pick him up from school and he hasn't been able to go outside, he is just bouncing off the walls. He's jumping down the stairs. He's begging to go to the playground. And so, at least for me as a parent, I'm working with his school to advocate that they have more programming at parent-teacher conferences. You know, that's something that I bring up to his teachers, that I don't think it's okay for them to take away recess time as a disciplinary action for the class, and that that's something that the school really needs to work on and find other ways to do that. So I think it's really parents, you know, advocating for their children, you know, within the school system and making that a priority. My daughter is in first grade, and we're about to have 60 of those first grade students out to the farm for a field trip. And hopefully that is just gonna open the doors for the rest of that school to come. And so at least for me, I think parent advocacy is really important for that.
I do not have any scientific proof, but I have some real proof from teachers who have outdoors gardens, and they send the kids who are hyperactive, they have someone go outdoors with them to work in the garden, and that calms them down so that they can come back in the class and be more productive and listen more. And so I would say that getting kids outside, let them get all that tension built up. Today, kids they have a lot on them. They have their home situation, which may not be good, and then they come to school and they get bullied for sometimes their home situation. So they need to be able to have a release. And when they took recess away from the elementary schools, they really did an injustice. And sometimes by trying to do more, you end up doing less. So I think the more they get outside, the better they'll be.
Thank you. We have time for one last question. So I just saw like 5 hands go up. Okay, right here with the microphone.
Is this on? Yeah.
Yes, it is. It was on.
I was just wondering, have you had any difficulty sparking environmental joy in adults as compared to children? And I guess if so, is that stemming from environmental resentment, maybe?
I don't know if it's environmental resentment, but the way that our culture is moving, we just spend so much more time indoors. As I said earlier, we're always connected to these, we're always connected to those. So with adults, yeah, I do find a lot of resistance. So what I did, today marks like 304 days. 304 days ago, I was too connected to this. I was going crazy, and I said, yo, I gotta get outside. And I went for a walk, and that walk turned into 10 walks, and now it's 304 walks. So it's literally, people have been following me on social media, and they have seen me just walking, and it's just 1 mile a day. That's all I say, is 1 mile a day. Anybody can walk a mile. So I think that's the way we start, simple, to get people outside.
Felicia, you want to add to that?
If I could add to that, I also find that a lot of people that I know who, as children, weren't active playing, sports, not being outside, not helping their parents with their chores and, things outside, they grew up to be adults that didn't want to go outside. So I'm always trying to get someone to go for a walk with me, or if you don't want to ride your bike, we can just go sit outside and talk, even if it's hot, so, and I have friends who still worry about their hair, but trying to get people to realize that it's important to get the fresh air. It makes you feel better about yourself.
Well, let's give our panelists a round of applause for sharing their stories. And I hope as we go into lunch, you guys will keep some of the things that were said here today in mind. Maybe go out and have a mile walk, or take out your bike, or I'm going to go home and try to grow those tomatoes on my deck. I've been trying for years now, so I might be contacting you. So thank you guys so much.
Who am I to doubt and question the inevitable being. For this is but a few discoveries we find inside the secret life